Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Roland Roberts, and welcome to Kingdompreneur Radio. I hope you're tuning in live. We're going live, actually, in about 3 minutes on air. And we've got some amazing guests in the studio today, and I want you to be able to meet them. And so we have Dimerick Patton over here. You'll get to hear from him. And then we have Lauren, lean in so they can see you there. And we'll make it a little bit like this. And then Audrey. So I've got both my daughters here, so it's going to be fun. And then we have Lindsay Coburn, who is Miss Woman Florida, United States. And she's over here. She's going to be popping in. We're playing some musical chairs here, but it's going to be a great time today because we are dealing with a topic that affects all of us. And I just can't even begin to tell you, I can't begin to describe the amount of pain that people feel when they are lied to. And the truth of the matter is, we've all told a lie. So we're going to get deep into this and how we should be as kingdom business people. And I really want to hear your stories. I mean, I want you to call. And if you need to be anonymous, be anonymous. But you call. I want to hear your stories because there's a lot of people that will benefit from hearing the times that you've been lied to and what it did to you. And then we're going to be talking about things that you can do to remove some of that hurt, suffering, and how to mentally deal with that, because there's feelings of betrayal. There's all kinds of feelings and emotions that come from that, and really helping you master it is what we want to do. So we're really excited. We're going live in 1 minute, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Audrey, I need
that MyPillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own.
And an incredible offer is going on right now. MyPillow offering 50% off their 4-pack special. 50%, that's half off their 4-pack pillow special. Go to MyPillow.com right now. MyPillow.com or call 800-480-1941. Use promo code WTLN. You're gonna love it.
94.9 FM and AM 950.
Central Florida's WTLN Orlando.
The Word, where faith comes by hearing.
Kingdompreneur Radio is paid for by Courageous.
You've waited 10,080 minutes, 168 hours, and 7 days for this moment. Welcome to Kingdompreneur Radio, the only business call-in show on Christian radio. Join CEO and host Dr. Roland Roberts as he takes your calls live and solves the biggest challenges you have in business. Entrepreneurs, this is for you. The founder and CEO of Courageous and former CEO of the Hoverboard Company. Here's Dr. Roland Roberts.
Hello, Kingdompreneurs, and welcome to Kingdompreneur Radio. You may be hurting today. Your finances may be tight. Your relationships may be deteriorating. Your business may be struggling. But over the next hour, I am taking your calls to grow your kingdom business, turn around your company, resurrect dead relationships, instantly improve your productivity, and dramatically restore your happiness, joy, and peace. I'm Dr. Roland Roberts, and this is Kingdompreneur Radio, helping you live your faith in business. You will be a better person 60 minutes from now than you are at this moment. I'll be right back to take your calls.
Kingdompreneur Radio is brought to you by Cardiff Lexington Corporation, a publicly traded company under symbol CDIX. If you're a business owner interested in selling to pull equity out of your business and would like to stay on board or are looking for growth capital, visit www.cardifflexington.com.
Welcome back to Kingdompreneur Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Roland Roberts, and I'll be taking your business calls in just a moment. Our topic today is how to deal with dishonest people. It's going to be brutal if you're dishonest. Call in and join the conversation at 407-682-9595. I really want to hear your stories. It's not. I'm going to share some stories, and I want to hear yours, and I want us to talk through them because there's a lot of hurting people. We've all been lied to. We've all been taken advantage of. And dealing with massive amounts of lying can just really disorient you. And we're going to walk through that and how to deal with it, how to address it, how to handle the narcissistic, lying, self-absorbed culture that we live in and sometimes employ in our companies. And so we're going to be dealing with all of that and how to address it in your relationships, in your business. And if you can learn how to handle this one element, it's amazing how many other sections of your life that you will be able to be in more control of, because the tools that you hear today on how to master and how to overcome being lied to repeatedly are the same skills that you need in many other areas of life. Before we get into that topic today, I want to introduce you to my in-studio guests, and I've got a studio full of people, and you're going to just love hearing every single one of them. First of all, we have Dimerick Patton, and you're going to get to hear a lot from him today. Really excited to have him join us. And we also have Lindsay Coburn, who is the Miss Woman Florida, United States, who's also in the studio with us today and has a great perspective on a lot of these things as well. And my special guests today are my two lovely daughters, Audrey and Lauren. They are 16 and 12 respectively, and growing up in an entrepreneur's home is a very unique thing. Most kids today are out at the playground or they're at the beach, and while we did get some pool time in and we've had some fun, you're in a studio today. And so let's talk about that, because growing up in an entrepreneur and a kingdompreneur's home, I want to hear what it was like. And both of you have started businesses, so feel free to share what those businesses are and were, and what you liked best about them. Lauren, welcome to Kingdompreneur Radio.
Thank you. Well, we have had a lot of businesses, family businesses, businesses by ourselves,
yep,
and all with your help. I remember this one that I loved doing this. It was a video thing that I did, and it was called Save SeaWorld, and that was one of my favorites. I had a YouTube channel, and that is what I would do it on. It was so much fun, and it was something that I was passionate about, because I am extremely passionate about animals, and that gave me a voice to make people aware of something that I wanted to do. And many people are against SeaWorld, so I thought it was a good opportunity to kind of show them what I was passionate about and help people see that SeaWorld isn't a bad thing.
Right. You know what's interesting about this? You've hit on so many things already that you may not even be aware of. First of all, I remember when you're driving in and there were all the protesters holding the signs, and your first reaction was you wanted to make a sign and stand on the other side of the road. Their sign said shut it down. You wanted to have a sign that said keep it open. And I thought, okay, that's what a lot of people do. That's obviously what all the people who wanted to shut it down do. But is there a better way? How else do you get your message across? And that's when we talked about, well, we could have, the window clings, and you could have a program, and you could start educating. And that's what you chose to do, was record videos about specific animals. And you started getting 400 or 500 page books on animals. You wrote notes every night, copious notes on every evening and every weekend for hours at a time to study the animals. You told vets things that they didn't know about the very animals that they care for, and you made it your life's passion. And that paid off, because as you know, you were proactively doing something about it as opposed to complaining. As you went through the emotional process of I want to fix this, but I don't know how. And so I start trying to do something, but then with the right guidance, we were able to do something with it. And SeaWorld ended up sharing your story on their page, and you got tons of followers. And still, you're very well. You articulate very well on TV, video. And I remember, even your video that you did, the very first video you ever did. Remember that? 5 years old, teaching people. I had just flown in. I was CEO of a company at the time. I had just flown in on Friday night, and you had watched one of my videos while I was gone, and you wanted to do it too. And when I landed, you were just like, I've got to record a video. And I said, well, you can't just, what are you going to talk about? Because you have to have something to talk about. And you just said, anything. I mean, I can tell them about this or that. And I said, well, you can only talk about what you know, because you were wanting to say the same things I was saying. And I said, no, you got to find your voice. And so I had just taught you how to ride a bike. And you're like, well, I know how to ride a bike. I can teach other 5-year-olds how to ride a bike. So we recorded that video, and I think the last time I checked, it has over 42,000 views. It has more views than anything I've ever done. So I'm really excited about it. First of all, what else? So you Save SeaWorld was obviously the biggest thing that you've done. But you've been on stage since you were 5-6 years old.
Oh, definitely.
With conferences that I was doing or what have you. You love What is it that you love about business or entrepreneurship? Because it dominates our conversations. We talk about it at dinner. We talk about it at night. We talk about it on the weekends. We talk about it in the car. And that's very different from what a lot of people experience. What is that like for you?
Well, the reason why I love it so much is because I, as you probably know, love speaking. And I've always been more of an extroverted person. So I guess sharing business ideas is kind of the way that I learn and that I grow, is having other people kind of know what's going inside my brain, and hopefully I can make a difference in some things, which is really what I want to do in life.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking today about how to deal with dishonest people. We've talked a lot about people who lie and how to respond to that. And me being a public figure, we have dealt with that a lot. When I ran for the Senate, every morning you wake up, you don't know if it's a complete lie in the newspaper or if it's somebody who loves you, but it's going to be one of the two. There's not much in between, And then what happens whenever you get the newspaper and the headline is a lie about your dad? What do you do when, we've had to handle those things that a lot of people don't have to handle or address. So, what would you say to someone? And I know you had a choice personally in school, recently of telling the truth or not. Give that story real quick.
Yes, sir. Well, there was this one time, and I believe it was in science class, and we have this thing called unprepareds in our school, and we get them for not having pens, pencils, paper, school supplies, homework, things like that. And I remember I was at somebody else's desk, and I did not have a pen for class, which would be an unprepared. And I remember there was a bunch of pens and pencils in the pencil tray in the desk, and I was in the very last row at our classroom. And I was like, wow, okay, I have a choice to make. I could not tell my teacher and get the many pens and pencils in the desk that I'm at right now, and my teacher wouldn't notice because she was looking down and she was helping us read. Well, not helping us read, but, and I had a very difficult choice to make. And I had 3 unprepareds, and 4 unprepareds is a detention. So if I had told the truth, I would get a detention, but I would be telling the truth.
Yeah, you wouldn't have gotten a detention if you if you lied. You could have easily used someone else's pen, and it would have been, what difference does it make? Mm-hmm. Or you could just tell the truth. And, it's more than just telling the truth. It was personal integrity. It was, no one else would know, but I will know, and God will know. And I don't want to be that person. Mm-hmm. It was a conscious choice. And I'm telling you, I think I love that has been instilled. We've worked hard on that kind of integrity. That level of integrity will serve you so well in life. You can't even imagine right now, because so many things, what causes people, a lot of people can get to the top. A lot of people get to the top of their profession, to their, politics, whatever it is, they get to the top of their game. What brings them down usually is a lie. We see it in the FBI this past week. We've seen it we see it in all kinds of areas of business. It's always the lie. And it's usually, and obviously the cover-up of, the continual cover-up of the lies. Because they just don't stop for people that didn't get it right early on. So thanks for sharing. Anything else? I know one of the things that you were sharing earlier.
Oh, yes. This morning, I saw this a long time ago on, I think it was either Instagram or Pinterest or something like that. And there was this post, and it really spoke to me, and it has been in my mind ever since. So let me ask you this question. Would you rather God judge you or man judge you? Basically, consequences is what I'm talking about here. For example, if you lied and you got away with it, then God would judge you. Yeah. God would judge you. But man wouldn't. Now, if you did tell the truth, yes, man would judge you, but God wouldn't. So which one would you rather? Would you rather have God judge you or give you consequences, or man give you consequences? And that was really something that had in my mind.
You know what it boils down to, Lauren, is most people are more afraid of what other people will say because they don't have the fear of the Lord. And the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, the beginning of wisdom. Mm-hmm. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of just life itself. And so if you don't have a fear of the Lord, then you fear man more than him, which is about the dumbest decision somebody can make. So anyway, thank you so much for being on Kingdompreneur Radio today. Really enjoyed it. And I want to spend just a moment here with my oldest daughter, Audrey. Audrey is 16 years old, born on 9/11, in between the two crashes, at 9 o'clock, 2 minutes before the second plane went into the World Trade Center. And I thought to myself, I knew if I had a kid, the world would come to an end. But I didn't know if it was crashing into the hospital. I didn't know when they came in, rushed in, turned the TV on, and just said, "We're under attack." And like literally us right now in the room in the hospital, and everyone was kind of panicking. And so it's been a wonderful life, and we've done a lot of different things. So your first business started at 5 years old.
Yes, it was selling donuts to car dealerships. Me and my little self would march right in there, and then I would just ask them if they wanted donuts. And usually they would say yes, because, I cornered them. They couldn't turn me down. It was so cute.
You were 5 and adorable.
Exactly. And so I made a good $200 or $300 every Saturday doing that.
Yeah, I remember telling somebody that my 5-year-old was making $1,000 a month, and they're working 2 or 3 hours a week, and their mind was blown. They're like, Can I have that job?
Exactly.
And but I did that for a few reasons, and you'll remember it was really about teaching you a lot of the skills. You were shy, and I wanted you to be bold. So I started off to where I would walk with you like to the door, but I still made you then go the rest of the way. And then I got to where I could just sit in the car and watch you. But that took several Saturdays for you to kind of grow into that.
Oh yeah, I was scared to death, but it was fun after I got used to it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so what are some of the other things that you've done?
After that, I did this little Play-Doh business, and I was really bored one day, and so I just decided to make Play-Doh or clay, or it's something like that, and it was all natural, and so then we just decided to make a business out of it. And then
do you remember the catalyst though for us making a business out of the organic or out of Play-Doh?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us.
Okay, well, first off, we used like all natural stuff. We would use all natural dyes and all of that, and so that way, you could eat it. It would taste really bad, but kids would still do it anyway. And so we wanted to do something that was available for all kids to just have fun with, but also that's safe.
I'll tell you though, what started the business was I'd gotten, somehow I went into your room for the first time in forever, and I found this, and I was like, what is this? And it kind of found out it's Play-Doh that you had made like several months before, and I said, that's unreal. Like Play-Doh dries out in 20 minutes if you buy the stuff from the store. Mm-hmm. And so it had lasted forever. And so that's what we saw. And so we ended up getting into some daycares in California and some other places, and that was a fun business. And then the other thing that God has really given you a talent was on doing hair. And you remember some of the things that you did there with Claire's?
Yes. There was one time where we were in a mall, and I played around with doing my own little vlogs and stuff on hairstyles. And so Claire's asked me one time to just go outside of their store and do kids' hair and stuff any way they want. Most of the time, at the time, Frozen had just came out, so it was almost all Elsa braids. And so I would just do that for them, and, it was fun.
It was such, you got to understand, that this was a 8-year-old here, 7 years old, 7-year-old, and then 12 at these different stages, doing these things. But it's been a great skill. And, one of the things, Audrey, I remember early on, you wanted to we ate out every single meal, just with schedules and things like that. And so you got to know the waitresses, and you wanted to be a waitress. More than anything, you wanted to be a waitress. And I said, I will fully support you being a waitress, just own the restaurant. And, you can own the restaurant. If you're the owner, then you can work any job you want in there. You can hire somebody to run it, and you can still be the waitress, but own it. And so just still instilling blending the entrepreneurial spirit with really some good kingdom principles of finance and so forth, but still being able to do what you love and what God's called you to do. And I shared on the radio on a program I was on a couple months ago. They were asking about you too, and they said, "What do you want most for your kids?" And I told them what I want most. That there is no greater joy than to know that my children walk in truth. There is no greater joy than to know that you walk in truth. And that's why we talk about, how's your relationship with the Lord? Are you close to Him? How were you in His Word today? How much time have you spent with Him? And we focus so much on walking with Him. because ultimately, nothing else will matter. Nothing else you do today, unless it's for him, matters. So thank you all so much for being on Kingdompreneur Radio, and I've really enjoyed you all being here, and we're just going to have a great time. We're going to be taking your calls right now, so call 407-682-9595. We'll be taking your calls. How to deal with dishonest people. Let me tell you, I'm going to give you something. We're going into this segment real quick. Remember, I want your thoughts on real quick as we close out before break. What are your thoughts with Audrey and Lauren here and some of the things that they've shared?
Oh, I think it's spectacular. One of the things that we're not doing well today is teaching our kids how to be entrepreneurs. Around 1900, 50% of Americans were entrepreneurs. Today, there's only about 6% that are actually entrepreneurs. And so when we look at the economy, and people are always saying there's not enough jobs, and the government says we need to create more jobs, well, who creates jobs? It's not the government, obviously. And yes, there are businesses that can expand, but who creates the majority of jobs are entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs actually create a job for themselves when they go out and become an entrepreneur. And so to be able to teach your kids this as you are, Roland, is just absolutely amazing. I think that it's wonderful what you're doing.
I think it's biblical, though. I really do. I think entrepreneurship, I mean, when you look at the number of the parables and how much even the Lord talks about finance and business and or principles that we use in it, it's unreal. It's not a normal percentage. It's an extraordinary percentage. I think, 70-some% of the parables are about finance and money and something to do with business-related principles. And so I think it's critical. And if we just obey him, so much of it just comes to obedience. It's not, you don't have to know the next hottest thing. You don't have to invent the next hoverboard. You just have to be obedient. He gives us certain talents, skills, abilities, and when we surrender those fully to him, he'll guide them. You may not be the next rock star and celebrity and Elon Musk and create Tesla and Steve Jobs and create Apple, but you will do extraordinary things. We're going to be right back in just a moment. I'm taking your calls on how to deal with dishonest people. So I want to hear your stories. I've got them coming up right after this message.
Entrepreneurs, business people, and Christian leaders, mark your calendars now for the 3-day, 2-night, all-inclusive, faith-based Bahamas CEO cruise, departing West Palm Beach October 7th through the 9th for only $49 per person plus port taxes and fees. For $49, you can join former Hoverboard CEO and Kingdompreneur radio host Dr. Roland Roberts on this incredible experience, providing access to world-renowned business titans. It's access, relationships, business, worship, and breakthroughs in your swimsuit. Reserve your cabin now at www.ceocruise.com. Kingdompreneur Radio is brought to you by Cardiff Lexington.
All right, we're going to go right back. Hang on.
Trading company under symbol CDIX. If you're a business owner interested in selling to pull equity out of your business and would like to stay on board or are looking for growth capital, visit www.cardifflexington.com.
Welcome back to Kingdompreneur Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Roland Roberts, and I'm taking your business calls as we are discussing dealing with dishonest people. Call 407-682-9595. No matter where you are in the country right now, to share your story or relationship or where you've had to deal with lying. This is the time to call. I'm going to kick us off, though, with a few hard thoughts right now about how to deal with dishonest people in business, in life, in relationships. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 2 through 5 says this. People will be guys, listen to this. This sets up the rest of the show. Okay? This sets it up. You'll get it with this. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. Have nothing to do with such people. Okay, so I'm in 2 Timothy, and I'm reading this, and I'm going like, oh my goodness, like how many names start flooding your mind of people who follow this exact format, you know? All you got to do is turn on your social media, look on Instagram, look on Facebook, and you'll find out how many people love themselves. I mean, it's over the top. They just are absolutely in love with themselves. And then obviously lovers of money. There's people who just live for the almighty dollar. boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents. Isn't that interesting that gets in there? Because it reveals the heart. Ungrateful. People who are ungrateful, unholy. Holiness is just a lost, not even art, it's just a lost principle. Unloving, unforgiving. How many people don't forgive? And, you can say the words, I forgive you, but you can harbor all that bitterness inside you and resentment. That's not forgiveness. Come on. That's unforgiveness. And you're probably lying to yourself that you actually did forgive. Slanderous. There's people who they say such the most horrible things about people without information. I remember when I had just gotten out of college and I was starting to make a lot of money, and I had employed a bunch of the college students that went to my alma mater for my undergrad. And the president and founder of the college stood up on a Sunday morning with thousands of people there. My mom happened to be visiting and was on the front row. And he said, he explained, and basically just slandered me, did everything but say my name. Like everybody in the whole place knew he was talking about me. And I was out of town on a business trip. And my phone started blowing up. Like, he's talking about you. You just made the radio on a Sunday morning and all these things. And I'm like, what in the world? What did he say? And they told me, and I was like, I can't even believe this. So Monday morning, I reached out to his secretary, and I said, I want to schedule a call. I want to meet with him. And he wouldn't meet with me. They said, he'll meet with you Wednesday. You can talk to him Wednesday night after church. I said, okay. So I stood and waited probably at least 45 minutes to be able to talk with him. And then I said, hey, I heard what you said Sunday morning, and this is actually what happened, and this is actually the way things are right now. And he looked at me and said, barely looked at me, and said, well, I'm sorry, that's not what I'd heard. And I said, that's fine. I would just ask that that if you ever have any questions in the future, that you come directly to me and ask me first, as opposed to just, putting it out there for thousands of people, when it's not true. So, just one element of slanderous without self-control. Who do you know that can't control themselves? They can't control their mouth. They can't control their temper. They can't control what they say. They are brutal. They don't love good. They are treacherous people. Rash. How many people do you know make rash decisions? They make split-second judgments. They make a split-second decision, and it's not spontaneous. Look, there's a big difference between being having spontaneity and being rash. And I can't tell you how many people, in the name of it being adventurous and in the name of being spontaneous, actually are rash. And this basically says, if that's you, and of course conceited, you're just full of yourself, full of the looks, full of whatever. Look at all the selfies. You'd rather be entertained. You just love pleasure more than you love God. Like you seek that a whole lot more than you seek God. You plan your entertainment and who you're going to hang out with and where you're going to go way more than you spend time with the Lord. See? And what Paul says here is, if that's you, like if you fit in any of those buckets, you are a fraud, you are a fake, you are a pretender, you are a phony, and you only have a form of godliness. You are kidding yourself because you're not kidding anybody else. It's clear as day to us. It's clear, everybody can tell that you stink, okay? You have a form of godliness, but you deny the very power that backs it up. It's all hat, no cattle is what you say in Texas, or we had someone who's on our live stream right now, which you can be watching us live at kingdompreneurradio.com, where when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And so, but look, the end of 2 Timothy says, have nothing to do with these people. Have nothing to do with them. Have nothing to do with them. Because a logical person, you cannot reason with an unreasonable person. You can't do it. The lies just keep coming. I've had it in business. I explained another situation a moment ago, and then I've had it in relationships. I've had it where they say they're at one place and they're at another place. They say that they're spending the night at a Christian girl's house and they're at a party and drunk till 4 a.m. and sleeping in the car to sleep it off. And there's just people who will just lie about what they had for lunch because that's just what they do. It's just who they are because they have a form of godliness, they aren't godly. They have a form. And people have hated me at different points of my life because I didn't live right. But even in those times, I didn't mind because in my mind, at least I wasn't living a lie. Like I wasn't going to hide it. And speaking of, there's a scripture that specifically says that, he who covers his sin shall not prosper. But it also says in Luke 8:17, for nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. You may get away with the lie today. You may have fooled me. You may fool your parents. You may fool them. You may fool your pastor. You may fool your preacher, your teachers at school. You may fool your boss. You may be fooling people today, but my friend, your sin will find you out. Your lies will come to the surface, and they get uglier and uglier and uglier, and you will have to deal with the consequences and fallout of that at some point. Level up, own up, and then for people on the other side of it, have nothing to do with them. I noticed one person who was on our program that's going through an incredible situation right now where they're dealing with just pure evil and lying, and it's a large organization, and it's so much lying that you just can't even operate as a kingdompreneur and as an executive, a CEO in that capacity. And so there's a lot of changes that are happening, and I agree with what she is doing and how she's handling it because of this passage. It just has nothing to do with such people. When you have tried, when you have addressed it, when you have confronted it, and they back off, and they don't change, and they don't level up, and they don't repent, which is what it comes down to. There's nothing left there for you to do except walk away. So look, we're talking about having a form, dealing with pretenders. I'm going to give you some of the traits. And, these people who just have a form of loving you, they just have a form of entrepreneurship, they just have a form of being what and who they say that they are. They pretend to have a business, they pretend to love and follow Jesus, but their actions and their behavior are as godless as can be. They deny the very power thereof. So, it screams that they love themselves. It screams that they are in love with themselves by their selfishness, and a lot of it does come down to selfishness. Denmark, I want to bring you in right now because we're talking about how to deal with dishonest people, and at the close of the show, I'm going to share a few. I'm going to answer 4 questions: the best response to a liar, dealing with people who aren't who they say they are, navigating a self-absorbed narcissistic culture, and seeing through manipulation and manipulators. But I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I have a mentor. His name's Ford Taylor, and he's helped me a lot with this. And so I've done some research on how do you know when someone's lying. I think some of us have done that. By the way, if you're wondering what some of those resources are that I've looked at, I read a book called You Can Read Anyone, Never Be Fooled Again, Lied to, or Taken Advantage of Again, and that's by David J. Lieberman. And in there, he helps you just identify when a person's actually lying to you and what they might be lying about, how to really catch them in the lie. There's also a YouTube video by a former CIA officer. Can we stop right there?
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with confronting a lie.
No, there's nothing whatsoever wrong with confronting a lie.
In fact, do you believe that is a responsibility, depending on the situation?
Depending upon the situation, yes.
Because especially if they work for us, if you're the leader, it is incumbent as a good fiduciary duty just of leadership to confront that. In relationships, there has to be integrity. You can't lie to your wife, and if you do, she has every right to confront you on that.
Yes, she does. So let's say that there is a situation where you know that someone is lying to you. If you had a question, were they lying to you, there's some things that you can do to figure that out. But if you know that they're lying to you, you can approach them on it. And there's 4 principles that Ford Taylor has taught me and that I use regularly with people. And so this could also be if they've offended me, if they've hurt me in some way, or if I see them hurting others. But lying is a big part of that. The first thing to do is to go in humility. Just going to the person and saying, I could be wrong on this. And so you're approaching them in a very humble manner by saying, I could be wrong. Also, you're going in pre-forgiveness. In other words, you've already forgiven them in your heart. How do you know when you've forgiven someone? It's when you no longer are angry. If you're still angry and you're still thinking about that person, you can know that you haven't forgiven someone, and then you would know why Jesus said to forgive him 70 times 7. because it takes a while for the emotions to actually catch up with what we are trying to really believe in the truth that we're appropriating through the power of Jesus. And then we want to go in love. In other words, I care more about the other person in their own growth than I care how that person feels about me. So if you go and you confront someone who's lying, they're probably going to get offended. They're probably going to get angry with you. But you're going to know that you're doing it because God called you to do it, because you're actually loving them. You're not going there to judge them. By the way, the difference between judgment and discernment, the way I define it, is discernment is knowing right from wrong. Judgment is when you actually hold them to pay something back. When Jesus comes and forgives us our sins, he's forgiving our debts. We no longer owe a payment. He made the payment. So we are not trying to exact a payment from that person. That's what judgment truly is. Discernment is knowing right from wrong. It's good to know right from wrong. Sometimes people get offended and they'll say, oh, you're judging me. Just say, no, I'm not judging you. This is something that I see.
Yes.
And then go in 100%.
That bothers me. It does stop right here. We're talking about this narcissistic, self-absorbed, 20-something culture that you even look at them funny, and they're like, "Oh, you judge me." Our campuses are having to create safe spaces because they're so sensitive about it. So then they say, "Well, don't judge me. I want to screw up. I want to do whatever I want to do. Carte blanche check." And if you say one word to me about it, you're judging, and shame on you. That's baloney.
Exactly. And too many people, they've gone ahead and they know enough scripture to say that we're not supposed to judge another person, but they've thrown discernment out. We've been given the spirit of discernment to know good from evil. And so God wants us to be able to know when someone is lying to us and then how to appropriately deal with it. So the last way that we approach someone, I've named 3 so far, is that we go with 100% of the truth. Too often when someone has hurt us, we're going to go with 80% of the truth and we leave the 20% out that really matters. So what do? We leave that one piece that is absolutely essential to restoring the relationship out. So we're going to let them continue to live that lifestyle of whatever it might be, whether it's lying or whatever it is. We are actually enabling them in that. So we have a responsibility to go with 100% of the truth.
That's wonderful. Here's a few cop-outs that bother me, Demerick. I can't stand when I hear people say, whenever something egregious occurs, and they say, well, they're sowing their wild oats. They're young. What were you doing when you were 20? They let them off the hook. I can't find anywhere in Scripture where it's like, you really don't have to start owning up and leveling up and telling the truth and doing right until you're about 27, 28 years old, and then you start getting your act together, and then you can. Where did this come from? Where, good Christian people would be like, that's just kind of, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, well, I have some opinions on that. I don't know if they're truth, but I definitely know that we have, just in general, just a very lax view towards true accountability. And there's also been a lot of people who have, over the years, made mistakes themselves. And so out of fear of being found out, they don't like to hold others accountable, because then they're like, well, I'm going to have to tell what I did. And so out of their lack of vulnerability and then wanting to be held accountable themselves, they don't want to hold others accountable. But when you yourself are choosing to walk in righteousness and you're doing it because you love the Lord, it's not because you have to. We're not talking about any form of legalism here. We're talking about loving Jesus and saying, I want to please you. When we're pleasing him and then we're interacting with other people, the spirit of conviction comes on us to actually say something to people at times. And to say, the best way to approach a person is just to ask them, are you open for feedback? Because if you say, are you open for feedback, they can say yes or no. If they're not open for feedback, then there's nothing you can do. Now, if that's a destructive, harmful relationship, then you need to get out of that relationship. Because if they're not open for feedback, they are going to hurt you.
Yeah. So, Lindsay, weigh in on this, because especially from a lady's perspective, and we're talking about some tough things here.
Yes. Especially what you just said. Maybe move that up just a little bit. If they're not open to suggestions, or if they do not want to take any sort of feedback or criticism or anything, they're definitely going to hurt you. I agree with you 100% on that. And someone who, again, doesn't want to tell the truth or doesn't want to change for themselves is never going to take your advice anyways. So that's kind of what I have.
Yeah, you have to walk. It just says have nothing to do with such people.
Correct.
You can try all day long, and there's not a program, there's not a book, there's not a formula, there's not a person. And I've had people bring people to me to try to fix them. Oh, no. I stopped doing that in about 2006, 2007, when all that does is make me go crazy, because I'm like, and that bothers some people. They're like, well, why don't you reach out? You don't care? What do you mean I don't care? No, when you're ready, you'll come. You'll come find me because you know where the answers lie. You know where the truth is. But I could speak truth into you all day long, and because you think lies, you won't even hear it. You can't hear it.
You can do it until you're blue in the face, but if they don't want to accept it or if they don't want to help themselves, there's nothing you can do to help.
Right. Yeah. You were going to say something?
Well, I did want to point out that people lie for different reasons. And this is probably something that you were looking into earlier. People lie oftentimes because they've been hurt themselves. We probably heard of Oz Guinness. He's an author, and he would say that there's always one more thing about a person that you do not know. Well, that means oftentimes there's something that happened to them when they were younger. It could be more recent, but a lot of times this stuff happens when we're children, and it gets locked in the part of our brain called our hippocampus. And so when something happens, we start to respond out of passion or pain, and so that will cause us to do something that we may not otherwise do. And so lying could be a part of that. And so the average person, according to Lominger's Voices 360 review, so that they do these 360s in businesses, they were able to look at how many blind spots the average person has. And the average person has about 3.4 blind spots in their life. So if there aren't others approaching them and giving them relevant feedback, and then if one of their issues is lying because they're actually trying to protect themselves, what we need to do is go out and approach them and find out what their story is. Because if we can find out their story, and oftentimes we have to start with our own story, with vulnerability, talk about what happened to you, talk about where you've seen these things in your life or what you can relate to their life, then that will go much better by asking them questions and telling them stories about yourself and being vulnerable to be able to approach them on this area that they see in your life. If they don't see you coming in humility, that you actually recognize that you have some blind spots, they're going to have a harder time receiving the fact that you're saying, I see a consistent pattern or a consistent habit of lying in your life.
Yeah, that's great. I'm leaving you with 3 excuses and 3 wisdom keys before we go to break. And I'm taking your calls as soon as we come back. Call. Just share your thoughts and ideas on this topic. I know it's 407-682-9595. Number 1, never get someone's excuse because of their age. Number 2, lying is still a characteristic part of our condition. It's the opposite of authentic. Number 3, liar gets out and pretend that they care more about how you found out about that lie. More next time. And that's it. Because we've all heard a lie. Do you admit and do you make it right? And have a difference. But if they are mentioning how they got caught, I'm telling you, friends, you're in for it again and again and again. I'll be right back after these messages.
Entrepreneurs, business people, and Christian leaders, mark your calendars now for the 3-day, 2-night, all-inclusive, faith-based Bahamas CEO cruise, departing West Palm Beach October 7th through the 9th for only $49 per person plus port taxes and fees. For $49, you can join former Hoverboard CEO and Kingdompreneur radio host Dr. Roland Roberts on this incredible experience, providing access to world-renowned business titans. It's access, relationships, business, worship, and breakthroughs in your swimsuit. Reserve your cabin now at www.ceocruise.com. Kingdompreneur Radio is brought to you by Cardiff Lexington Corporation, a publicly traded company under symbol CDIX. If you're a business owner interested in selling to pull equity out of your business and would like to stay on board or are looking for growth capital, visit www.cardifflexington.com.
Welcome back to Kingdompreneur Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Roland Roberts. I'm taking your calls, 407-682-9595. We are talking about how to deal with dishonest people, and we have so many different stories. I mean, you just can't even imagine. Some people are gold, and some people are gold-plated. And what we want you to do is be able to recognize the difference between the two of them. I remember whenever I was CEO of the hoverboard company, we had over 300 manufacturers, Chinese manufacturers, knocking off our product. That's a lot of frauds. And so one of the things that we did was I got 10 of them to come together, actually 19 total, initially, and 19 knockoff manufacturers to come together. And I got the Chinese to compete against the Chinese instead of Americans against Chinese. And so I got those 19 to pay a one-time retribution payment, worked out a royalty, authorized them to actually knock it off, gave them some parameters and some inside information to make it safer so that they wouldn't catch fire, and then and started working with them and collaborating as opposed to just competing. And then they took out all of the other Chinese knockoff manufacturers. So, in business, there's a lot of ways to be deceitful. There's a lot of ways to defraud and to lie. And especially when we start dealing with different cultures where it's not as taboo to do it. In fact, sometimes it's an accepted business practice. So when you start talking about these principles internationally, it really creates for a lot longer conversation than what we have today. The other illustration I wanted to give you was whenever I was CEO of a $250 million manufacturing company. My second week as CEO, first of all, they had been losing money for 15 straight years. It was a 30-year-old company, 29-year-old company, and had been losing money month after month after month for 15 straight years. Came in, we had the first growth month after 90 days, or in the 90th, the third month. But 2 weeks into that CEO role, the president of the company came in, and he said, there's a few of us in the conference room. Can we meet with you? Okay. Walk to the conference room, and there's a team in there. And I didn't know what they're about to say. And he said, look, we had a batch, our new energy drink, essentially, just came out. And it was the very product that was saving the company. They had done hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in pre-sales. And it was going to rescue the company. It was going to keep the company in business. And he said, we just got some calls with customer service, and there's a batch that was bad. We have tested it in the labs. And some of the algae levels, the blue-green algae levels, the toxicity exceeded what the FDA standards are. And they said, what do you want to do? Knowing that if you said recall, the company was going to shut down. So you can recall, but there's no place to send it because the company's out of business. So we just shut down. Or do you sweep it under the rug? Do you handle it just with each one individually? And that was literally the options that they gave me. And they said it a little bit more delicately, but not much. And I remember being blown away that would even be suggested. Like, how could you even recommend that to me, that we address this one-off and not say anything? And it really helped me understand just how much integrity controls your life, your finances, your relationships. It controls so many different things. Like, for me, it doesn't matter how bad the news is. I can handle most anything. Like, I can handle the truth. What I can't handle is a lie. So I can handle the most horrible truth you could possibly tell me more than I can handle a lie about, what you ate for lunch. That's the difference, because I love truth. It's not because I hate lies. It's because I love truth. I focus on that. But when you hunger and thirst after righteousness, when you are Matthew 6:33, seeking first the kingdom of God, all Proverbs talks about is just consuming yourself with truth, His truth. And so that's where I think a lot of that came from. What I ended up doing in that situation was we did announce the toxicity levels had exceeded and that there was a batch. We found out the different batches. We did issue a voluntary recall. It didn't exceed certain standards to where it was a mandatory recall, but we did do a voluntary. If you send it back, we'll send you the new stuff. Most people haven't had, 2 or 3 people had, their stomach hurt, as opposed to and that was out of, hundreds of thousands of people, 400,000 people, I think, at that point. So, it wasn't anything, but we didn't hide it. We told them what it was. We showed them the reports. We showed them. So, and if you want to send it back, we exchange it immediately, no problem. If you want to, however you want to handle it, but we didn't sweep it under the rug, and we offered everyone their money back. And that was going to be, we left it up to the consumer, not us trying to dictate that, but certainly not hiding it and lying about it. But that's what Wells Fargo CEO did, who got fired last year. You can follow the trail. What a lot of people on Wall Street, you can see banks, almost every industry where people at the top are willing to lie, to do that, to make a buck. or to protect the stock price or something like that. So those are just a couple of the stories that I wanted to share from a business perspective, and obviously the personal perspective. I want to give a few wisdom keys here, and Dimmer, feel free to jump in at any point. I want to give you, number one, the best response to a liar. We've already heard it, and it's not coming from me. It's coming from 2 Timothy 3:5, and that is no response. No response. Just walk away. Because Psalm 5:6 says, you destroy those who speak lies. The Lord abhors the bloodthirsty and the deceitful man. The casual lie is one of the worst. Proverbs 26:18-19 says, like a madman who throws flaming arrows of death is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, oh, I'm only joking. One of the verses I love is Proverbs 6, where it talks about the 6 things that the Lord hates. Yea, 7 are an abomination to him. A lying tongue. He can't stand it. Proverbs 12:22, lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who act faithfully are his delight. Look, there's more verses than I could ever read on air about lying. But what I want all of us to do is examine ourselves and say, look, where are we lying? Not necessarily to other people, because most people aren't going around telling lies. There are some people that they do. They do. And I've had it. I've lived with it. I know that. But that's not most people. But you know where most of us do struggle is in lying to ourselves. And we don't even know, obviously the point is we don't know where we're lying to ourselves. And I think we've talked about this a lot. Where are we being deceived? Where are we believing a lie?
Yeah, because the lies that we believe are what hold us bound. It's not the truth. And so when we believe a lie about ourselves, that's what binds us. That's what binds all people.
That's good.
One of the things that you mentioned, Roland, is that sometimes we are the liar. I know that all of us have lied, and we can say that we have. We actually sin against people all the time. One of the tools that we also teach in transformational leadership is something called the 6-step apology. So this is really helpful for people who, let's say that you were lying. You need to go to the person that you lied to and just state the offense, whatever the offense is. But in this case, I did it. I lied to you. And then go ahead and say, I was wrong. That's number 2. I am sorry. Now, a lot of people stop there. That's not where we want to stop. We want to empower the other person. Will you forgive me? Or when you are able, will you forgive me? That is empowering to the other person to make a decision. We don't want to say, I'm sorry you feel that way, because that's an accusation. We want to say, I am sorry. Will you forgive me? Or when you are able, will you forgive me? And then you have the right to say, hey, this is completely up to you, but I am inviting you to hold me accountable in the future. You don't have to, but this is just an invitation that if you see this in my life, you are allowed to say something to me in the future. And then to ask them the last question, is there anything else that I've done? Because you want to restore that relationship as quickly as possible. So is there anything else that I've done or that you see in my life that's keeping us from having a great relationship of trust? That is an extremely humble position that you can put yourself in, and you are going to restore the relationship when you use a 6-step apology like that.
It's fantastic. The second thing, dealing with people who aren't who they say they are. Look, the thing about dealing with someone who isn't what they say they are is you always find out too late. It's always after the fact. Now I know that you're not who you say you are, and you can trust and verify and still get taken advantage of. I spoke with the CEO of a company, a resort that sold his company to Wyndham, I think it was a year ago or so, for $172 million. And then he invested $800,000 into a project. And within 3 months, it was just all gone. He just absolutely lost it. And it's because it was misrepresented. They trusted, and he said, look, we trust a little bit more than we should have. They said it was this and it was really that. And very material things. And of course, by that point, you try to figure something out and right the ship, and oftentimes it just doesn't work, no matter what you're doing at that point. So for me, and especially in relationships, that's one of the things that a lot of us can relate to is when you believe one thing about a person, and maybe it's not who they turn out to be, or maybe. Or just the struggles of that, and the betrayal, or you feeling defrauded, or feeling used, abused, taken advantage of. I remember times where, I would confront a lie, and then the response was, "You're crazy." No, that would never happen. That's so far. That's so crazy. That would never happen. And then of course, if you come to find out, that's exactly what happened. And it's like, the counselors call that gaslighting and other things, but manipulation is just all it is. And I know we've spent a lot of time on manipulation, and that's actually one of the things, one of the points, see how to see through manipulation and manipulators. And so in understanding, that when you're communicating with someone, that's not manipulation, that's a conversation. If I'm trying to share my perspective and why I believe a certain thing, I'm not manipulating you. You can choose to believe what you want to believe. I'm just giving you my perspective and opinion. But I've done that before, and people said, oh, you just manipulated me. No, what is sales? What happens when you go in and buy a shirt that you don't want, and the salesperson says, oh, looks great on you. Okay. They just manipulated me into buying this shirt. I mean, come on. At some point, you've got to just grow up. Anyway, the next step that I want to give you, next wisdom key, was navigating the self-absorbed narcissistic culture. Quite simply, don't be one. I mean, look at your Facebook, look at your Instagram, look at your Twitter, look at all this stuff. Clean up your act. If the majority of pictures are you, then you're probably part of the problem. Use these things to communicate. Use them as the platforms that they are to share your message and your passion. Not to, I saw a thing that said, how crazy would it be if Instagram was gone tomorrow and you weren't a model anymore, and so I think there's just a lot of truth to some of these things. But if you're going out to bars and clubs and you're constantly trying to numb yourself with socialization and pleasure, and you're the problem. This is the narcissistic self-absorbed culture. If you're living for the almighty dollar, then you're the problem. The only way to successfully navigate that in this culture is to not be one yourself, because you know how hard it is for you to change. You're definitely not going to get somebody else to change. Only Jesus Christ can change the heart of people. I know you've shared so many tools today, and I know there's a program. Would you share real quick about how and where they can get more information?
Yes. So Ford Taylor's coming to town next week. I actually am the one who brings him in about once every 4 months, and he comes in and he does this training. I've been through the training 15 times, and it truly has changed my life. It's changed my relationship with my wife. And I truly would consider myself a disciple of Christ now. I really know how to walk out these biblical principles, these biblical tools. It's not that I didn't know the scripture before, but I needed a way to practice it. And Ford provided that through his training called Transformational Leadership. So on Tuesday and Wednesday next week, we are doing our next Transformational Leadership training, and it's at the Converge Center down in the Lake Nona area. And so if you would want to come, you could go to orlandotl.com. and you could sign up there. That's orlandotl.com, and we have a promo code for the Kingdompreneur listeners right now, and it's KP Radio. So if you go to orlandotl.com and go to KP Radio, you will save 20% on the cost of the conference. Normally it's $300.
That's awesome. And I've been through it as well, and we've had Ford on our CEO cruise. The last one, he'll be on the next one. It's absolutely phenomenal, the difference that he's made in my life. I've been through it. I cannot endorse it enough. OrlandoTL.com. And what was the discount code?
It is KP Radio.
KP Radio for Kingdompreneur Radio. KP Radio is the discount code there. Thank you so much for being with us today, Demrick. And Lindsay, thank you for joining us. Audrey, Lauren, thanks for joining us. I want to close with a spiritual charge here for you. Proverbs 28:1 says, "The wicked flee when no man pursueth." I had someone tell me last week, they said, it just feels like I'm running faster and faster and things get getting closer and closer. And the first thing I thought of was this verse right here, Proverbs 28:1, "The wicked flee when no man pursueth." You're not running from a person. Oh, you're not running at all. You're running from him. You're running from the Lord, and he's closing in, I guess, but you're running from him. You're not running from anybody else. After pride, lying is pure evil. And I've said I'd rather be with an honest atheist than a dishonest Christian, and I'd really rather be with an honest Christian. but if you have to choose, that's where I'd be choosing. As a kingdompreneur, mark these people, because guess what's going to happen? God's going to get their attention, but it's going to get it like Jonah, like he got Jonas. There's going to be a catastrophe. There's going to be a problem. What was that quote that you said?
I was going to say, there's always one more thing about a person you do not know.
Yeah, there's always one more thing that you don't know about a person, and just the fact that that you have to. God's going to get their attention when there's enough pain. When the pain of changing, or the pain of their existing situation is greater than the pain of changing, then they'll change. And so the pain has to be there. And just like Jonah, God's going to get their attention. And I'm telling you, I don't want to be in the car when the car wreck happens. I don't want to be in the nightclub when the pulse, or when, whatever happened, I don't want to be in the area when God gets a hold of that person, or gets their attention, or sends the whale, because I don't want any part of that kind of destruction. A person with discernment can always tell when someone is running from something. Listen to me. You can always tell when someone's running, but you have to have discernment. And the Bible says, only the wicked flee when no man pursueth. I mean, can you just be calm? Can you just sit there? Can we just have a conversation? Or are you antsy? What's bothering you? The wicked flee when no man pursueth. Acts 9:5 says it's hard to kick against the pricks. You think your life's hard right now? It's just going to keep getting worse, because whenever Paul was running from Christ, he said on the Damascus Road when God stopped him, he said it's hard to kick against the pricks. And what that means is farmers back then had a rod and they had a metal tip or iron tip on the end, and they would prod the animals to keep them in line. And when they get off track, they would poke them to get them back in line. The more rebellious they were, the more they tried to do their own thing. The farmer would prick him and make him uncomfortable until he started on the right direction again. The more he rebelled, the more he suffered. The more you rebel, the more you lie, the more you run, the more you're going to suffer. Proverbs 13:15 says the way of the unfaithful is hard. It's hard. Kingdompreneur Radio has a specific need for a piece of equipment, so if you want to provide the live streaming for our viewers, you can contact us at the office at courageousexperience.com. I also want you to pray for me. Look, we're taking direct aim here with spiritual warfare, with reaching 100,000 plus people a week on Kingdompreneur Radio, and we want you to partner with us in prayer. Email us at office at courageousexperience.com and let us know. Cover me in prayer. I need your prayers. I want to be above reproach in everything we do. Stay tuned for Authentic Living with Courtney Shaw. I'm Dr. Roland Roberts, encouraging you to live your faith in business.
You've been listening to Kingdompreneur Radio with Dr. Roland Roberts. We pour God's Word and business principles into hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs every week, and we couldn't do that without your sacrificial giving. If you're interested in supporting revival through the marketplace and mobile...
What just dawned on me? They never get to hear this close. So it's just where they share kind of how to contact us and things like that. Guys, thanks for joining with us today. And so many of you had great comments and you're just interacting with us on the live stream, and I really appreciated that. We love the conversation, and today's topic was especially difficult. And I know some of the people who were on and struggling, and I pray that you find peace. Demrick, I thank you for sharing everything you shared. That was just phenomenal on specific tools. And doesn't an hour go by fast?
It does. Went by very quickly.
It just seems like there's just not enough time to cover everything. And this is a deep topic. This is a deep topic. And but just know that if you're struggling, we're here to help you. And there's truth to be found. There's truth to be found. You can't get a liar to search truth, but you can discover it. You can search it out, and that's what we want. We want it for you. The best thing, and that's what I always focused on. Whenever situations were outside of my control, and especially when I was dealing with a liar that I could not control, you have to just distance yourself, and then you also you have to focus on your relationship with the Lord and focus on areas to make sure that there's not the splinter in your eye. And focus on you becoming, getting stronger with the Lord, and that's where healing will come from, and it's also where you mentioned it, but just a loving spirit, a forgiving spirit. You've got to keep peeling that onion back over and over and over and over, until the forgiveness is clearly there. What's that?
You said were you no longer angry? That was a point.
Yeah, when you're no longer angry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of angry people.
There are a lot of angry people. And maybe we help get them better.
Yeah.
By giving them the right tools that they need, and we know that it's primarily the Scripture. Get them into the Word, get them into good relationships, and get them healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And of course, it all starts with desire, but you got to wait for that pain point to elevate. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Audrey and Lauren, come say hi one last time. Lindsay, peek in there. So I don't know. Here, let's Audrey, go over there.
Okay,
so you can,
there we go.
So.
No, I'm here.
Yeah. So it's been a great day.
I don't want to.
You cannot.
Yeah, I don't think she can make enough people.
You gotta leave me on the door.
There.
Right there.
I just
Part
have
of
to
her.
go that way.
You can see part of her. No, it's fine. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us on Kingdompreneur Radio this week, and look forward to next week's edition. Have a great week.
Here we go. Bye. Smells like science.